Good morning. This is the Great Basin prescribed fire weather briefing for Monday, October 6th. We're past our fire season briefings on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We'll be updating the general weather with a special emphasis on prescribed burning, but a look at anything interesting going on weather-wise during that time as well. It could be a big snowstorm that could impact travel or anything like that. So looking at current conditions in terms of fire, new fire starts in the red, a few smaller fires popping up. We did have some larger fire activity up in the north in the past 7 days, a 500-acre one here in the northern Sawtooth. A larger one here in the Wasatch area also ran a couple of 100 acres as well. That was before the big weekend rain and high elevation snow event. So that's definitely quieted down. You see the precipitation the past 7 days on the left, heavy amounts. Areas in green to dark green, a ½ inch to an inch. Areas in yellow to orange, anywhere from 1.5 inches to as much as nearly 3 inches of precipitation. You see the percent of normal on the right-hand side, and I should mention that above 7,500 feet, a lot of that was in the form of snow. Had about 6 inches or so in the Wasatch, and there were some reports of close to a foot, some of the higher terrain in Wyoming. So definitely a winter-type storm system. The flash drought over the past 2 weeks overall did show drier than normal conditions across some western areas and in the far north. Wetter than normal conditions further south. There's a few days delay, so this was actually just before the big rain event. So this image will probably change significantly with its next issuance. Satellite imagery shows the clearing after the storm. Some of the brighter white pockets we see in the higher terrain is actually snow cover on the higher peaks, especially up here in Wyoming. We see the clouds have dissipated. We have clear blue sky across most areas, so that should bode well for drying out some of the surface fuels in preparation for any burn projects that may be upcoming this week. Upper level map shows a big ridge of high pressure over the western U.S. Still a weak low pressure trough, but on the drier side. Most of the moisture has moved to the east. Our ventilation index, which combines both horizontal transport winds and vertical mixing heights. Areas in the white have the best overall mixing or ventilation. Areas that are yellow or red, slightly less, especially into the red areas. Looking at surface winds on the left, out of the north and east, but fairly light speeds. We see the surface humidities as dry as the low teens in the south. Most central areas are somewhere in the mid-20s to 30%. Then as you get up into Idaho and Wyoming, still closer to 40% for minimum RH. You can see the transport winds also same direction northerly, but a little bit stronger, especially down south in southwest Utah. Transport, I should say mixing heights, vertical mixing, in the yellows to oranges, 3,000 to 5,000 feet above ground level. That's typically pretty good. Now for tomorrow, a lot of dry air given by this tannish shade of air mass. We have a broad ridge of high pressure, a deep low dropping down out of the Gulf of Alaska, and another low with a tropical system coming in towards Baja. But we're going to be sandwiched with dry air in between. But because it's under higher pressure, the overall mixing or the overall ventilation is going to be a little bit worse. And then we'll see winds fairly light overall. In most areas at the surface, you see the relative humidity still dry, though we're drying out. Low teens in the south, upper teens to mid-20s as you head further north. So some of our northern areas will see the surface fuel starting to dry out a little bit. Transport winds a little bit stronger where you see the greens. They're more in the vicinity of 12 to 17 miles per hour. The vertical mixing still not so bad, but not as good as Monday. More in the order of maybe 2,500 to 3,500 feet above ground level. Now on Wednesday, this deep low pressure area starts to drop further south, and the winds will pick up. These are upper level winds here. Just above the ridgetop levels, or I should say around 18,000 feet. And some of these are 40, 45 knots, even 50 knots. So winds will be picking up. That's why the ventilation index goes all white. The whiter the colors, the better the overall mixing, both horizontally and vertically. You see the surface winds picking up. Direction now is more southerly. Some of the darker greens are winds sustained upper teens to low 20s. Humidity, again, same story, dry, near 10% in the south, mid-teens to mid-20s as you head further north. You can see on the left the transport winds. A lot of the oranges, the transport winds will be in the mid-20s to near 30 miles an hour in those orange areas, less in other parts. Vertical mixing, you see a bit more of that orange and darker red. Some of that vertical mixing could be getting up to 5,000 or 6,000 feet in quite a few areas. Now, day 1 to day 3 precipitation overall, not much going on yet. We are in a drying process. We see the stuff down south, and you see some stuff approaching the far Pacific Northwest. Now, as we go into Thursday, towards the end of the week, you see this tropical moisture starts spreading rapidly northwards, getting into the Arizona Strip and southern Utah. We do see a wedge of windy and dry conditions pushing into Nevada. This could actually push a lot of areas out of prescription where the humidities are going to be too dry and the winds may be too strong. But from a air quality point of view, no problems. Great vertical mixing, those areas in the white. We see that on Friday as well, that moisture surging up into much of eastern Utah at the present time and moving inland into the Pacific Northwest with that northern low. And then on Saturday, a really deep plume of tropical moisture pushes into southern Nevada, much of Utah, even into southeast Idaho and approaching Wyoming. And also this low pressure off the Pacific Northwest coast will start moving in and approaching Idaho, maybe not getting in until later in the weekend. But you see the ventilation going down. It's due mainly to lack of daytime heating and cloud cover, putting a lid on that. But overall, I think the transport winds are going to be quite strong during that time period. And then on Sunday, that low pressure area in the north moves into Idaho, so they'll finally get precipitation up in northern areas as well as western Wyoming. The tropical moisture further south gets pushed further eastward, so we start drying out across southern Nevada and much of southern and central Utah during that time period. This is precipitation days 4 and 5 from Thursday morning through Saturday morning. You see that southern areas get about 1/10 to 1/4 inch of precipitation, and then day 6 and 7 there's heavier precipitation continuing, not just in the south but also maybe low-end wetting rains around 1/10 of an inch, locally 1/4 to 1/2 inch pockets in the north. And when you add it all up over the 7-day total, most areas get some sort of precipitation, again, locally heavy in the south and east areas. The longer range 8 to 14 day outlook continues to show below normal temperatures for most of the area and a continued surge of above normal precipitation in much of the area. So it looks like a cool, wet period continuing for the foreseeable future. It's the end of our briefing. We'll be back with an update on Wednesday. Have a great day.